You're listening to The Women in the Arena. I'm your host, Paige and Maggie, former collegiate athlete turned leadership entrepreneur for women just like you. Each week, I'm bringing you a new person or message to help you expand and elevate into the woman you know you're meant to be. Now, let's step into the arena. All right, you guys, we are back with the Women in the Arena, and I'm so excited to share with you the story of Maggie Owens, who is the owner of Presley Paige, which is a really awesome gift shop. And I actually want her to explain it a little bit more because it's more than just a gift shop. Me just going in there and shopping, and of course, it's named Presley Paige. So I'm like, this has to be a cool place. But thank you so much for being here, Maggie.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. It's always fun when you get to build relationships with our customers. It's fun as this relationship has really flourished over several years, from talking about softball to working out and now these ventures. So I'm excited to be here today.
Cool. Tell us a little bit about the vision of Presley Paige. Like, where did it come from initially?
So I have always loved retail, and I'm not a big shopper. So when I say I love retail, I don't mean like I loved going to the mall growing up and like buying everything. And that wasn't really what I loved. I really have distinct memories in my mind of places that I shopped as a child and as a teenager that I really just loved the way they had curated or created this thing that was very special and different than other places that I was shopping at. And I always used to joke that I wanted to be a lawyer, an attorney, and be a boutique owner. And clearly I didn't know the difference between an attorney and a lawyer at a young age. But I always just knew that I wanted to have my own special little shop, and I've never really been into fashion, so I knew it wasn't going to be apparel, but I always loved to collect things, and I think I get that a lot from my mom, who has the most unique collection of little things from her travels and living abroad in her 20s and 30s. And so as I got older, I feel like I kept working. I was working in the real estate development world and just kept thinking like, I really still want to do this thing. And so many years later, I was able to open Presley Paige.
I know not all of our listeners live in Fayetteville, Arkansas, but you guys cannot miss this building if you're driving along College. My dad was here for Thanksgiving and we're driving by and he said, oh my gosh, how cool is that? Because it's completely decked out in pink sparkles for Pinkmas. And that's your theme for December. And it's really cool. And I think it's a really cool marketing effort, but I also think it's really cool that you enjoy so much of what you do. And I think that comes through in your business from the little bit that I know about it. When you decided, when you felt that itch of, man, I really want to start this, I imagine that was pretty scary. And sometimes I think we get overwhelmed, like, okay, where do we even start? So where was it that you started? What did you do?
I had worked in marketing, and the way that real estate development works is like, I would get these big projects and we start from a land acquisition of dirt, and what I would do is essentially start a brand over. And I was doing that for every 8 to 10 months across the country. And so I got a lot of experience of starting a business for someone else. When you're building an apartment community or a retail center, you're trying to drive attention and traction to the thing because you want tenants, and whether that's a retail tenant or a restaurant or somebody just looking for a place to live. And so I had a lot of experience doing that. So it was about like 2016 or 2017 is when I started to really get serious, because I moved so much in my early 20s with my career and trying to advance. It was really when I was living in Springfield, Missouri, that I felt I am in a position financially where I want to do this. And I was never planning to quit my job. I just wanted to have a little shop. I wanted a little side hustle action because everybody was having a side hustle. And that's where it really started. And it was there that I eventually got a job offer to move out of state and move to Arkansas. And I kept up trying to get funding, and everyone was like, you're a really smart girl, but this is a really bad idea. And I even have like an email that says, you're going to have a really great career and blah, 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 but this is just a terrible idea. And people were suggesting that I go to the farmer's market. And I was, you don't understand. If you're going to tell me to go to the farmer's market, we're not on the same page. I'm not making jam here, which is awesome in its own regard. But I was like, that's not my niche. I went through a lot of years of rejection, feeling like I couldn't bear the financial burden to open a business. So I think when I initially was going to open, it was in about 500 square feet. It was really small, and I just wanted to have greeting cards and pins. And then as my dream evolved, so did my budget needs. The monetary restraints started to feel a lot more real and like building out a space. In the beginning, I thought I needed funding. And so I kept hitting dead end after a dead end because I didn't have access to funding. And so it was in 2019 that my mom had these huge tables that I had bought reused from another store that had decided they wanted new furnishings. And this was many years ago. And so I bought these, and she told me like they had to be out of her garage. So you either need to start your business or you got to sell these tables. And I was like, oh no, we're going to use them. So that was like the push. And then from there, I found a space on Craigslist after a lot of months of looking, and then bootstrapped the whole thing. So today, Presley Paige is 100% self-funded. We have no debt whatsoever. We don't even have a line of credit. Like everything we do is a cash-based business. And so I think that has its own constraints. But I think when I like to talk to people, it's like, whatever you think you need, that's your wish list. You don't really need those things to start a business. And I haven't needed those things to get where I am today. Would they have been helpful? Absolutely. But it wasn't necessary. At some point in my mission and vision planning of what I wanted for my life, I was like, the rubber meets the road, right? And you're like, either I got to jump in and do this with nothing. And I kept saying, worst comes to worst is I think my lease was like $30,000 for the year or something like that. I don't remember now. But I was like, worst comes to worst, like I'm out $30,000. I don't care. And so I kept having to figure out a way to justify making that jump without feeling like I was going to lose everything. Because I think that was my fear in the beginning, was like, I didn't want to give up so many things about myself. I didn't want to give up my money, and I didn't want to give up something financially to make the compromise to get what I have today. And eventually, like, you meet this spot where you want something more than what you currently have. And that's happened to me really early on. And I was excited to jump in.
Yeah, that is incredible to be a full cash only business. I don't know that I've heard that very often. And being a different kind of business owner, I can imagine how challenging and how diligent that is to have to tackle a little bit of overhead in the beginning, because that's really hard. So congratulations to you. And I just think it's really cool. And I remember really just being drawn to your energy the first time I came in the first space. And I was like, why Presley Paige? And we got to talking, and we had a mutual friend or family member of yours. And I just always loved going in. And for me, as a frequenter of boutiques, it's always fun when you feel like warm and welcome and seen. I think you do a great job of making your customers feel that way. The thing that is just so compelling about your story is what you said about the want. When your want gets so clear, or like such a big pull, it's like the how reveals itself. And that was something that I learned early on in business. It was Tony Robbins that said it. Once you decide, the how will reveal itself. And what I find is, like, talking to women in business, or whenever I'm mentoring women, a lot of times stop themselves from dreaming because the how gets in the way. And it's, okay, well, I want this, but how am I going to execute it? Or I want to have a family and kids, but how am I going to do that with my career? And so whenever you would be faced with those setbacks of somebody telling you this isn't going to be successful, or not knowing if you could do it financially, what was it that kept you going? Was it little reminders? And you talked about your mom and the table. Like, what was it? Was it just that vision that you were like, I can't do anything else?
I think part of it was like, you're doing something and you're frustrated with what's going on in your career. And I had a really awesome career for about 12 years, and I felt a lot of fulfillment out of that. But I felt like I just wanted to do things differently. I just wanted to do it my way. And I don't think I'm by any means great at all these things, but I just wanted to do something different than I was currently experiencing. And being a woman that's plus size and not picture perfect, you know, in a college town, I always just felt like icky a lot of times when I would like shop local places, and I didn't feel welcomed. The basics was like the products that I wanted, I couldn't find locally. And so I think it was a combination of all those things. And I'm like, I bet there's people out there like me that feel this way and just want to walk somewhere and feel welcomed when they shop with us. And I tell that to everybody that works in our store. Yes, you all have projects and things you're working on, but your main job is to make these people feel like you're their best friend when they walk in the door. And like, you've got to remember them. Like, you got to ask them questions and follow up on their lives, and that's why it's so important to us. And we're in a season of change right now, but why it has been so important to our success is like having a consistent face in the store. So if it's not me, it's somebody else that you've probably seen on our social media or somebody that you've interacted with before in the store. Because for us, retail is all about connections and community. I think going back to your question, I felt like I wasn't finding that sense of community in my own life. So Presley Paige really has become an outlet for me to feel connected with my community in a very large way and to build relationships. So I think I've made some of my closest friendships and mentors and women now that I admire so much in this community, I've met through the store. And I was just in one small industry doing this one small thing. I wanted that so badly. I wanted female relationships and I wanted friends, and didn't live here a long time. And so that kept pulling me back. And now I think over the years, my why and what keeps me going is so different. It's that I have all these women that are relying on me on my team to generate income so that we can support them and myself. Now I'm like, I feel the pressure sometimes. The community's expecting me to be there and to show up and to support something that's happening locally or to be like a great resource for them to buy something. Lots of whys and lots of great reasons, but it's been such a fun journey so far.
I literally just took out a sticky note to write some notes because I have so many questions to ask you. One, I think it's so brave that you share how you felt like an outsider. You said as a plus size woman in a college town, I literally felt the same way walking into boutiques. And I always check myself, right? So as a performance coach, I'm always like, okay, well, is this coming from myself or is this the environment? I'm always wondering that. My default is to be like, it's an insecurity of mine if I'm feeling this way. However, I really can relate to feeling that way. And I don't know why. Sometimes when I go into a boutique or something or knowing that like I'm shopping for somebody else.
It was always the question instead of like, hey, how are you? Oh, who are you shopping for today? I'm like, y'all know I'm not fitting in this XL skirt. Okay, that's fine. But sometimes I might not be there for the apparel, but you have really cute accessories or other things. And so I think for me, creating a safe retail space is really important that welcomes everybody through the doors.
I know a lot of people feel that way walking into Presley Paige. I remember having an interesting conversation with you one time where I asked you when I was grabbing probably a card, because those are my favorite to look through of y'all's. And I remember asking you, do you have a community of people? Are you involved with the boutique hub? Like, who are local women that you talk through the challenges of being a boutique owner with? And you said that it was really hard because of your specific niche. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah. Over the years, Presley Paige has evolved so much. We started as a store with 100% or 90%, 95% party goods. When we first opened, we had a small card wall and every paper plate or napkin or princess themed thing that you could ever possibly find. There was nothing like that in town other than like a party city. And then as Presley Paige has grown, we've added services. So we became an event planner in a sense. And with our balloon services and other decor options that we do, we also pivoted a lot to gift and home. And now we're selling furniture, having all kinds of such a wide array of services. It really became hard because on the balloon side, it was like, balloon people didn't take me seriously because I'm like a gift store or a party store or a home store. And this is some little side thing. And then on the party side or on the home decor side, like high-end home decor, they didn't take us seriously because we're like freaking doing balloons. It's like we're all over the place. So now 4 years in, I've had such great conversations with so many women, more so in boutiques that don't live local. So I don't have a ton of great local business relationships just out of niche. I don't think it's out of any other reason than that. And so I found community through other adjacent businesses. So I have a really good friend now in Middleton, Wisconsin. Shout out to Allie. I talk to her almost every day, and she's went brick and mortar about 2 years ago, I think. And so she was online only, and we connected and we've become really great friends, but she's strictly brick and mortar. And so she started this party and now I've converted her to the home side. And then I have other friends that are all 100% party and balloons. And I think for me, it was like trying not to put myself in a box, but also trying to show other people, like, you don't have to live in a box either. And we can cheer each other on and support each other and share resources with each other without being competitive. There's enough to go around, especially when we're not local. Sharing knowledge is going to help everybody. And help us all rise together versus isolating each other and ourselves.
Yeah. It's hard. I can't imagine what it's like for you, especially not having local contacts for starting. I actually didn't realize that you weren't from this area. In my mind, when I first went into the shop, I was like, oh, this is probably locally owned because she's from here, because who would do this in an area that they didn't know? And I think that's so brave and courageous, and just goes to show that if the vision's there, you can really create something of your own. Because I was talking to a woman that I had met a couple weeks ago, and her dream is to start a boutique. And I say dream a little bit loosely, right? Because like a dream without an actual goal is really just a dream, and it'll just live in your head until you take action to support it. And she mentioned a couple boutiques, and she's like, oh, you have this one there and this one there, and I don't really know where I would go. And I imagine you thought some of the same things when it came to like, how am I going to differentiate? And so what got you over that hurdle where you're like, no, I'm just going to do it my way, and I want to do it my way, and we'll see what happens thing?
I think in the beginning, it was what we were doing was so different, that product assortment wise was so different than what everybody else was doing. As we've grown and started to dip our toes into things that other people are doing locally and doing really well locally in the boutique space, for me, it's been a lot about remembering that Fayetteville is this small and the world is this big, and that there's so much out there other than just our town. I think I have to put my hat on all the time, especially as our audience grows online, to think I'm not just programming for people here in Northwest Arkansas. I'm programming for a larger audience. Now I just don't even focus on what's happening locally. I'm really just worried about what's happening on more of a national scale. I think from a marketing standpoint, if I'm thinking locally, I would say trying to differentiate through what experience people have in our store. When you're shopping at Presley Paige, it's beautiful, but it's just a website. You have so many e-com retailers you can shop with. But when you walk in through the doors of Presley Paige, it's a totally different experience than you're going to see somewhere else. And that's through art-led activations, both on the exterior and in the interior. I really try to lead with that, and then the products are there. But I love art, and I love big art, and I love to do things that are out of the box. When we were doing Pink Miss this year, I was like, however many disco balls a sane person would have, I want more than that. And so that was just a joke with me and one of the girls on our team. But I think I really just love to do things. And I think it's awesome to admire people and to want what they have. And I hear that so often from young entrepreneurs or women that want to do something that I'm doing. They're like, I want to have a story exactly like yours. I'm like, that's awesome. But what would make it different? What would make it special and unique? Because what about you is so different that's going to bring people in? Because at the end of the day, anybody can copy or open the same boutique with the products that I have in my store. That's not secret, right? You could go in and take a picture and then buy all those things and put in your store. But the secret sauce is in how you display it and your brand and the story you're telling. So I always encourage people to be find your sauce. And for me, that has been the art. And it's been my visual merchandising is different than what you're going to see at other stores, and our color assortment. I don't think I had a lot of fears in the beginning, and now I just don't even think about it. I'm so hyper focused on what I'm doing that I try not to look at or worry or compare myself to what other boutiques locally or even nationally are doing, because I'm I've got to just do what I want to do.
Yeah. You guys, when I first started my entrepreneurial journey, I had very few examples of women in leadership positions. And sometimes when I shared what I was building with my friends or with my coworkers at the time, they just didn't really get it. Even when I wanted to create some new goals and talk about those ambitions, I didn't feel like I had a community of women to share that with, which is why I found an online community of other multi-passionate, like-minded women. If you can relate, join us in our Rise Facebook community, where you get free weekly coaching, a network of amazing women who are also in the arena, and you're the first to know about the latest offers. Women leaders rise together. See you inside our Rise Facebook community. You can find the link in the show notes. Amen to that. And when you can create excitement in your own lane versus looking side to side, it just makes a world of difference. I don't even know what's going on outside of the vision that I have right now. And to be so hyper focused on that is really powerful. Because it's December, or I think this will be released in December. I want to segue a little bit and pick your brain and your expertise on gifting. It'd just be really fun because I read, in your bio, you talk about really enjoying the art of gifting. And so, what are your go-to gifts, or how do you gift for Christmas, or what are the things that you really like to give?
One, I have to do a disclaimer that my family actually doesn't give any gifts for the holidays. We are totally like a giftless family, which is such an oxymoron in the sense that I own Presley Paige. But I have always been a fan of a useful gift, or like something that someone's going to use and keep with them. And I'm a very sentimental person. If you give me something, I will probably have it for the rest of my life. And that's just not in a hoarder way, but if you gift me, I'm going to hold on tight to this because you thought about me enough to give me something. And I really like things that connect people. I like to be sincere in my gift giving. And so if you don't know somebody, that can be a little bit harder, but I would encourage someone, if I was gift giving for you, I would do something about leadership and maybe something to help you stay relaxed, because it's you're dealing with such heavy topics all the time. And so you got to remind yourself to take time for you. I really try to gift based off of the person. Don't worry about the dollar amount. It's never about how much you're spending, especially now as adults. I think as a teenager, you're I want an iPad or I want this. But as adults, I don't think it's ever about the dollar amount. I think it's about the sincerity of your heart and where you're coming from and giving the item. So I would focus on, even if it's a little thing, even a written note that tells you everything that you love about somebody. I know I have in my home framed pieces of art that are literally just a card that was pretty, that someone wrote me something nice inside. When I see it, it's a reminder of that person, and what they wrote is very private and covered, but still the sentiment of that is there.
That's such a great idea.
This holiday season, don't break the bank. Just buy what speaks to you and reminds you of somebody, or just write a note.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I can't believe you guys don't give gifts. That is just definitely turned things on its head with my question. But I think that gift giving is something that I personally really enjoy a lot. Probably why I'm in Presley Paige as often as I am. I just really love giving gifts. I have a problem with Christmas lists. And I was thinking about this earlier today because my whole family will ask, okay, what's your Christmas list? What's your Christmas list? And I'll be honest, I give one, and I give some thought to giving one because I say I will and I want to do what I say. But when I'm gifting somebody, I don't want a list because I want to pay attention to what they need or what they talk about or what they like. And that's what I want to do.
Again, I'm I haven't made a Christmas list, maybe 16, 17. It's over my head. But I think sometimes for certain people, a list could pertain to them if they need certain things. And I think at least the parents and people that come into the store, a lot of times we'll have a parent and they'll be like, oh, my daughter really just moved into a new house and she needs kitchen things. So I'm buying her kitchen things. I think that if the list is helpful, no harm, I guess. If that's what they want, it's easy.
So how do you guys celebrate Christmas? What does that look like?
Okay, so I have a 2-year-old nephew, so I guess it's probably going to change a little bit. My mom always does a stocking, but it will have pretzels or maybe some lip balm or some lotion from Bath & Body Works. Sunshine loves Bath & Body Works, and Bed Bath & Beyond, from a scalp scrubber to something random. So we have a stocking that usually has candy, maybe a $10 Starbucks gift card or something in it. But that's our extent of gifts. And then we just have dinner and all the regular Christmas things. My family went through some financial struggles when I was earlier in my life. It just became one of those things where my mom did such a great job for so many years of giving us everything we could ever have wanted and more. And as we got older, we just don't need as much. And so we don't really do gifts for anything. I remember when I first opened Presley Paige, I was shocked at how thought out people were in their gift giving for their friends in college. Cause it was I don't know that one friend gave me a gift in college. I remember one time I got an American flag calendar as a joke, but that's the only gift I ever remember receiving in college from a friend. So I think that's been really fun. I've always loved it, and seeing how much other people love it too and helping them is awesome and such a big endorphins boost for me.
I can totally see that. I think that you were talking about how you've been able to be creative with the experience that your customers feel in the shop and the art that you get to display both externally and internally. I think that some of the creativity I enjoy is gifting something creative. And I have to share this with you because I'm really excited about it still. My brother just turned 30 and he's in the Navy and he's on a ship. His birthday was November 17th. And I knew that he wouldn't be able to receive anything. It just takes a long time for mail to get to the ship. So I sent a message to 30 different people to send me a little video that was just like, happy birthday, Mike. And so I put together the collage in iMovie and sent it to him because I was like, how am I going to feel most loved on a ship in the middle of the ocean? It just backs up your point of money most times probably isn't equivalent to like how sentimental the gift can be.
I've had one of those before and it was like the best gift I ever received.
Yeah, it's so great. So 2 more questions, one of which is, what do you feel like is most impactful? Like if you were mentoring a young entrepreneur, whether she or he wanted to start a boutique or anything else, what do you feel would be just your most impactful piece of advice, given what you've gone through to get Presley Paige where it is today?
Loaded question. The biggest thing is just starting. Like start with what you have. Just put your body into motion. You'll learn along the way. When I first started, I was so afraid to start, so worried about what was going to happen if I failed and would people judge me and what would happen with all these other things in my career. And now it's easy to look back and say, it wouldn't have mattered. I could have just gone out and got another job or could have done this. But I think a lot of it is start with what you have, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, pivot, and you'll figure it out along the way. And I think that's with everything. For a while before I started Presley Paige, I was building a mobile app because I thought I was going to be an app. I have this app that I was working on with somebody. And that ended up turning into nothing, right? We won some startup weekend competition and then it didn't turn into anything from there. But it was like every idea that I had, you have to start. And I think that's one thing is you'll have all these ideas. In my world, distinguishes the people from having a dream, like you said, and somebody that actually is doing something. You're going to figure out so much and you're going to learn so much even in your first month of doing something. Really encouraging people to just start with what you have, start with where you're at. In the retail space, start with $100. See what you can sell. If you can take $100 and turn it into $200, maybe you're onto something. You've got to just start small and let it snowball into something big. Another thing that I would say is don't be afraid to stay the course when it's really hard. And I think there's been a lot of times, even in my 4 years of owning Presley Paige, where I just wanted to give up. I was like, this is so hard. I don't want to do this anymore. But then you go to sleep and you wake up the next day and you try harder. Sometimes when it's hard, you're either going to learn a valuable lesson out of this or you're going to fail, and that's okay too. And you learn something different. And so I would say, don't give up too soon. In the retail space and in business, I see this a lot. People start this business venture and it doesn't immediately become a hit, right? Podcast doesn't immediately get millions of streams. What am I doing? No one's listening to this. I'm done. And I think it's like the consistency is what really pays off in the end. And I see it a lot with small business, like boutique owners, people that start and message me. They're like, how do you sit in your shop when there's no one there? And I'm like, when I first opened, I told myself all I needed to make was $80 a day. If I could make $80 a day, I could pay the rent and buy a set number of inventory. And for my first over a year, that's all I wanted. How do I make $80 today? Don't worry about if no one's coming or no one's listening. Eventually they will, if this is the thing that's meant to be, or if this is the industry that's going to work for you. So don't give up too early. Be consistent. Keep showing up, because that consistency and that tenacity is what's going to pay off in the end versus giving up so early. And I always hate to see that when I just had to close. I was sitting at my store every day and only one person was coming in or no one was coming in. And I was really big on when we started, shout out to my mom for helping and working there every day, because I still had a full-time job for that first year. I was really big, and I'm still really big. And I say this after just having to delay an opening for the first time ever this past weekend because we couldn't keep up with online orders. But I'm really big on if we say we're going to be open at 10 a.m., we're going to be open at 10 a.m. We're going to close at 6. We're not going to close at 5:45 or 6:45. We're not closing early, because it's those holding yourself to those hours is a message of professionalism and tells your customers that they can depend on you. Even if no one's coming, what if you got that customer at 5:55 or 5:58 that came in, they just needed one card? It's you close early one time, and then that puts a bad taste in their mouth. That consistency is key, I think, in any industry. And I think coming from the athletic side, an athlete can't just practice one time. You've got to continuously practice. Even when you lose a game, you just got to keep on getting up there. And eventually you're going to get that W, right? That's how I feel about Presley Paige. I'm like, we have some W's, but I'm like, we're going to get that big one someday. And it's going to feel so great. And I'm going to know that collectively as a team, we've worked so hard to get there.
Such valuable advice to just take those little wins, because those little wins do equal big wins. The little consistency over time really does compound, and it's wild. Like, I've been able to experience that over the past year. This was my first year full-time entrepreneurship. I've run my business while I was working with Arkansas softball, and to see the success add up, you almost have to let the success add up. You have to stay in the game long enough, to use your sports analogy, to let the success build up. And so I appreciate you saying that. And I love that you talked about tunnel vision on $80 a day, like $80 a day in a boutique. Like, I could easily do that. Unfortunately, myself, walk in every day and spend $80.
Yeah. In the beginning, there were days that it was like, okay, today we only sold $45, but on Sunday we sold $120. So I'm actually up on the week by $7. So I only need to make this amount of money the rest of this week. I think there's just like such a beauty too in having those experiences versus just having it all be successful right away. And my team probably hates this more than anyone, but I'm really big about not cutting corners. We got to do it. We got to do it right. If this is what the client expects, if this is what people expect of Presley Paige, we've got to really do it versus half-assing it or trying to skirt by with doing the least amount as possible. And I think the same thing goes with any profession. You've really just got to commit to it, do it. If you halfway do it, everyone's going to tell you halfway did it.
Yeah. And even more, you're going to know it yourself. And I think like you holding yourself to a certain standard is huge, and being able to deliver that consistently. My final question for you, Maggie, is a question that I ask all of the guests that we have on the Women in the Arena. And it is literally, what does being a woman in the arena mean to you? How would you define that?
A big part of it is somebody that shows up for other people. I think being in the arena myself means that I've got to be there for other people when they need me. When I was starting out, there weren't very many people that I could call or ask questions to that I needed help. I didn't feel like I had that support system. Now, as Presley Paige grows and more people ask me questions every day in our DMs, I try to get back to as many people as possible, because I think it's so much about passing it down, allowing other people to rise up too. So I would say that's a really big part of it for me, is helping other people, men, women, anybody that is looking for business advice or wants information on how I got to where I am, which is still very much an uphill journey. I would say the other part of that is taking that responsibility seriously of being in that arena and what that means to have people looking at you based off what you're doing and viewing it a certain way. So I feel like a lot of sense of responsibility to share all sides of this journey. For those of you that follow along on our Instagram, it's not very sugar coated most of the time. I'm just keeping it real. And there's a lot of things about entrepreneurship, especially where we're at in this stage of growth, is messy and not perfect at all times. As much as we try to do things 100% all the time, sometimes things just can't be there. And sometimes it's me in sweatpants and no makeup and just dying, but showing up every day. I think there's a lot of responsibility as a woman now to show the realness of what it looks like to be a female performing and showing up every day. And sometimes that doesn't mean I'm at my best or I'm at the top of my game, but I'm still there and I'm still giving it all I have for that day. I hope that was great.
No, that was so awesome. I honestly went right back to seeing your story where you were having like dinner late one night when you were trying to finish the sequence on the building, and it was like Chick-fil-A in front of Pink House Alchemy. And I was like, that is real. That's so real. Because at times you probably want to balance. I feel this personally. I want to balance being very real, transparent, and honest with holding authority and being professional and also being a leader for other women. And so it is a fine line sometimes. Like, I'm not going to get on and bawl in the camera or anything, but those moments are very real. And thank you.
I posted a reel this summer at one point where we had just gone through some layoffs. We had the hardest year. 2023 was the hardest year we've ever had in a retail environment. coming off of 2 or 3 really strong years of doubling in sales and really great growth. This year has been the first year, I think, as a business owner that I got to say, okay, it's not always up. There's a lot of downs. Not that we hadn't had those before, but like a lot of downs in a row, a lot of L's. I posted something about how I got so sick of looking at a stupid empty desk in our office from where like an employee wasn't there anymore that I really loved and missed. And our team had just had to change because we couldn't support them anymore, not out of any other reason. When I posted that, a lot of people messaged me and a lot of comments on that were expressing that they were in the same position, appreciating that we were sharing one and asking how we were trying to get out of it. I was like, I don't know. I'm just trying every day. And so I think we isolate ourselves to protect ourselves when we're vulnerable and we share what we're going through. It allows more people to be our cheerleaders and to help us and to check in on us and maybe help us get through faster. And that's what I'm always trying to do, but it's definitely a balance because I'm not on there crying either. But sometimes I want to be crying.
Yeah, no kidding. I can't thank you enough for agreeing to do this interview and sharing your insights and your knowledge and just being so real and transparent. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. Again, thank you for showing up and just being a champion for other women that are really going for their dreams and being in the arena.
Thanks for having me. And so glad we got to chat today.
I hope today's episode inspired you on your journey in the arena. Make sure to check out the show notes in the description for a rundown of today's show with all the important links. If you enjoyed this, please share with a friend. I know how much it means to me when my friends share podcasts. Leave us a review and let us know what landed with you over on Instagram at Paige_Renee15. As always, your best bet is on yourself.